Hi, my name is Bridget Foy, and I'm an actor in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. I am also a singer and a Renaissance Festival performer. As pretty much anyone in the entertainment industry knows at this time, pretty much all forms of live entertainment have come to a screeching halt. I myself am very lucky to be doing an online performance at the moment. I'm working with a group called Melancholics Anonymous. We are performing a Rude Mechanicals only cutting of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So the Rude Mechanicals, that's just the play within the play. I'm playing Starveling. It is a 4-part production that will be live streaming to YouTube across 4 nights, October 21st through the 24th at 7 p.m. After this show closes, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do. I, like many actors, am kind of out of work at the moment. However, a couple people in my life at the moment have been suggesting I try YouTube, so I'm gonna give it a shot. I was unsure for a while what I wanted to do for a first video. I have some stuff recorded for later videos, but I thought maybe for this first video I would just read a story to you. And as it is nearing Halloween, I thought I'd read a bit of a spookier kind of ghost story. So this story is called The Horned Women. It is an Irish folk tale, and it's a little bizarre, but yeah, I thought I'd just read for you. So if you're interested in hearing, stick around. This will be very short. The Horned Women. A rich woman sat up late one night, carding and preparing wool, while all the family and servants were asleep. Suddenly, a knock was given at the door, and a voice called out, "Open! Open!" "Who is there?" said the woman of the house. "I am the witch of the one horn," was answered. The mistress, supposing that one of her neighbors had called and required assistance, opened the door, and a woman entered, having in her hand a pair of wool carders, and bearing a horn on her forehead, as if growing there. She sat down by the fire in silence and began to card the wool with violent haste. Suddenly, she paused and said aloud, "Where are the women? They delay too long." Then a second knock came to the door, and a voice called out as before, "Open! Open!" The mistress felt herself constrained to rise and open to the call, and immediately a second witch entered, having 2 horns on her forehead, and in her hand a wheel for spinning wool. "Give me place," she said. "I am the witch of the 2 horns." And she began to spin as quick as lightning. And so the knocks went on, and the call was heard, and the witches entered, until at last 12 women sat around the fire, the first with 1 horn, the last with 12 horns. And they carded a thread, and turned their spinning wheels, and wound and wove, all singing together an ancient rhyme. But no word did they speak to the mistress of the house. Strange to hear and frightful to look upon were these 12 women, with their horns and their wheels. And the mistress felt near to death, and she tried to rise, that she might call for help, but she could not move, nor could she utter a word or a cry, for the spell of the witches was upon her. Then one of them called to her in Irish and said, "Rise, woman, and make us a cake." Then the mistress searched for a vessel to bring water from the well that she might mix the meal and make the cake, but she could find none. And they said to her, "Take a sieve and bring water in it." And she took the sieve and went to the well, but the water poured from it, and she could fetch none for the cake. And she sat down by the well and wept. Then came a voice by her and said, "Take yellow clay and moss and bind them together and plaster the sieve so that it will hold." This she did, and the sieve held the water for the cake, and the voice said again, "Return. And when thou comest to the north angle of the house, cry aloud 3 times and say, 'The mountain of the Fenian women and the sky over it is all on fire.'" And she did so. When the witches inside heard the call, a great and terrible cry broke from their lips. They rushed forth with wild lamentations and shrieks and fled away to Slievenamon, which was their chief abode. But the spirit of the well bade the mistress of the house enter and prepare her home against the enchantments of the witches if they returned again. And first, to break the spell, she sprinkled the water in which she had washed her child's feet, the feet water, outside the door of the threshold. Secondly, she took the cake, which the witches had made in her absence, of meal mixed with the blood drawn from the sleeping family, and she broke the cake in bits, and placed a bit in the mouth of each sleeper, and they were restored. And she took the cloth they had woven, and placed it half in and half out of the chest with the padlock, And lastly, she secured the door with a great crossbeam fastened in the jambs so that they could not enter. And having done these things, she waited. Not long were the witches in coming, and they raged and called for vengeance. "Open! Open!" they screamed. "Open, feet water!" "I cannot," said the feet water. "I am scattered on the ground, and my path is down to the lock." "Open! Open, wood and trees and beam!" they cried to the door. "I cannot," said the door, "for the beam is fixed in the jambs, and I have no power to move." "Open! Open, cake that we have made and mingled with blood!" they cried again. "I cannot," said the cake, "for I am broken and bruised, and my blood is on the lips of sleeping children." Then the witches rushed through the air with great cries and fled back to Slievenamon, uttering strange curses on the spirit of the well, who had wished their ruin. But the woman and the house were left in peace. And a mantle, dropped by one of the witches, was kept hung up by the mistress as a sign of that night's awful contest. And this mantle was in possession of the same family from generation to generation for 500 years. The name with this story is Lady Wilde. I hope you enjoyed that. If you would like to see me read more books or more stories, let me know. I am more than happy to do that. I'm not entirely sure what my content will be on this channel at the moment. I'm still kind of figuring that out. I do enjoy dressing vintage, as you can tell, so there will probably be some content related to that, but we shall see what unfolds, and I hope I can entertain you. So, thanks. Nice day.